Hello and welcome back. In our previous episode, we created an app where a lot of things happened. Honestly, it's such a blur right now. We created this multiple request handling controller method, which was, I think, in show here. Yes, so this was responsible for both deleting and adding a note. See this, I'll make it bigger. This one deletes the note, this one adds the note. It was quite a mess, to be honest, but Jeffrey promised that we're gonna make it better in one of the future videos. This one, of course, if we are updating the router, I guess we're doing it so that the router accepts both get, post, and get, post, patch and delete requests, I guess. So that's create, read, update, delete. So create corresponds to post, read is get, update is put or patch, yeah, and delete is delete. Let's see what he teaches us.
All right, welcome back, everybody. In this lesson, we will extend or enhance our router class to support different request types. So for example, if you have a form where you want to submit, say, a delete request to a particular controller, how exactly do we do that? Well, I'll show you in this video. Let's get going. So we will get started in routes.php. And yeah, I want you to notice how for each URI and corresponding controller path, at no point do we distinguish which request type we want to respond to. It handles all of them, which is why in our controllers, we end up with some kind of gross code. For example, when we show a note, yeah, we have the
like we discussed, this one is gross code because a single controller handles both post and actually technically delete and put requests.
this check here. Well, was the form submitted?
Okay.
In this case, we are deleting a note. Otherwise, we are showing the note. And again, very, very quickly, this becomes very, very messy. So our job is to clean this up. But how exactly do we do it? Well, one option would be something like this, where you instead return another array, but each item is its own array. And you could say, well, the URI, if I reproduce what we have up here, the URI is the home page, the controller path, and real quick, let's comment this out to remove the squigglies. Anyways, the controller path would be controller/index.php, and the request method that we want to specifically and uniquely handle, or exclusively handle, would be a get request. And yeah, we could do that. And then I could repeat this, and I guess it's fine, but I don't know. It's
Let's make a function of it instead. Maybe that'll be more concise.
It's not overly friendly to interact with. Instead, though, what if we had something like a router object? Well, if that were the case, we could just call specific methods that match our desired request type, like this. Listen for a get request to the home page, and then here is the corresponding controller path. You know, this just feels a little better to me. And then later, if we have, which one was the delete request? Well, it would be something like this. Handle a delete request to /note in this case. Then we could have a dedicated controller for this action and request type alone. Maybe controllers, notes, and destroy is a common term there. Mm-hmm. So our router object would have methods like get, delete, post, put, patch, all of the different request types that a form could potentially submit. All right, I think this feels pretty good. The next step is to make it work, and that's the harder part. Okay, but it won't be too bad. I'm going to go into my core router class, and yeah, up until this point, we've had simple functions, but I'm going to upgrade this to a dedicated class. I will rename it to capital router. And then for the moment, let's just comment everything out.
Wait, what? Oh, okay. He called it directory router.php. That's so funny.
And we'll start at the beginning. Class router. And let's see, if I switch back to routes.php, like
I can't wait until he finds out.
I said, we'll have methods to match each form request type. So if I go back, right off the bat, I know I'm going to have a get method. I will have a post method. I will have a delete method. I will have a patch method. I will have a put. For now, there are different...
Okay, get method will get you the content of a node, delete will delete the node, patch will update the node, put will create a node, or post will create a node. One of the two, I'm not sure.
Between patch and put, but for now, just imagine that it represents updating a resource. There are some differences, but for now, you don't really need to think about it. You can consider them synonymous, and people are getting mad as I say that right now. But at this stage, just use one of them, or people are differences, but for now, you don't really need to think about it. It represents updating a patch and put, a delete method. I will have a patch method. I will have a put. For now, there are differences between patch and put, but for now, just imagine that it represents updating a resource. There are some differences, but for now, you don't really need to think about it. You can consider them synonymous, and people are getting mad as I say that right now. But at this stage, just use one of them or consider them synonyms.
Okay, let's do that. First up, he created a router.php folder. Let's just call it a router folder directory. I'm going to show the retrieve and not controllers, not core, not any of this, but router with a capital RR. And he moved, I believe, the router PHP, though he created a new one. Actually, he moved all of he renamed core to router. Did he do that? Let me see. This is core.
The next step is to make it work, and that's the harder part. Okay, but it won't be too bad. I'm going to go into my core router class, and yeah, up until this point, we've had simple functions, but I'm going to upgrade this to a dedicated class. I will rename it to capital router, and then for the...
Okay, so he did rename it to router instead of creating a new one. Sorry, delete this. Move to recycle bin, rename core to capital router. Okay, and in the router, again, this is all green because these are untracked changes, meaning I've changed a few things here and I just need to commit it to Git. Why are there 10? Oh yeah, so 10 were deleted, 5 were deleted, 5 were added. That's why 10. Okay. Now here we're at router.php. This looks fancy. Did he
moment, let's just comment everything out and we'll start.
Commented everything out. Okay. Select this, comment it out. What? Yeah, comment it out. Okay. Now he defined methods, right? So the methods were function. No, he defined a router class with methods. So class router. That's how you do this. Let's see.
Start at the beginning. Class router. And let's see, if I switch back to routes.php, like I said, we'll have methods to match each form request type. So if I go back, right off the bat, I know I'm going to have a...
Oh, interesting. Did you notice what he did there? He just typed MET and MET. No, I don't have that. He's probably using some extension or some sort of emit shortcut. So I'll just say function, no, Jesus, function, no, public function get. Public function get, public function, let me just follow his order.
Get method.
I know it's get, delete, get, post, delete, put, patch.
I will have a post method. I will have a delete method. I will have a patch.
Okay, cool. Get post patch. Get post delete patch put. Get post. No, it needs this thing, argument or parameter. Okay. Get post public function delete. Get post delete public function patch and public function put. This is useful. No, not inside. Outside. Okay. And why are you yelling? Unexpected token was expecting. Yeah, but okay, it didn't save. Yeah, now it's saved. Now you can stop yelling. Okay.
Method. I will have a put. For now, there are differences between patch and put, but for now, just imagine that it represents updating a resource. There are some differences, but for now, you don't really need to think about it. You can consider them synonymous, and people are getting mad as I say that right now. But at this stage, just use one of them or consider them synonyms for now, and then we'll talk about the differences later.
Okay.
All right, so this is looking good. The next step, when I call the get action or method, it looks like we are passing a URI and a controller path. All right, so let's accept that. And actually, it looks like this didn't rename properly. Capital router. There we go. So we accept a URI.
Oh, did he have to rename the router PHP and not core? That makes a lot more sense, actually. Okay. That makes a ton more sense. So this should not be router, this should be core. Yeah, okay, cool. Sorry, Git. So you notice Git reverted to the original state and then just renamed the router file, because that's M is modified, that's the modified file. Okay, now let's go.
And then a controller path. Okay, so what should this method do? Well, think about it. In our routes.php file, we're calling methods all over the place. So maybe each time we call a request type method like get or delete or post, maybe it should be cached, so to speak. Like maybe we should store it within an array that the router has access to. So right up here, we'll add a new public property called routes, and we will initialize it to an array. But this time I will introduce a small bit of visibility. So up until this point, we've made everything public, as we talked about. And that just means the method or the property is publicly accessible outside of the class. So if you have access to the object instance, you can call this method, you can call that one, you can call this one, you can access this property. But as you'll find in the future, there will be situations where maybe you don't want to expose or reveal certain information or data types. So you can change that by switching public to either private or protected. I often use protected. So what this means is this property now is protected. It is not available to the outside world. Within this class and within this object instance, we can interact with it. But outside of it, you don't need to interact with it. And that's usually the thinking I will reach for. Do you need to access this? Well, no. There's no reason why you would need to access this routes array outside of the router class. So I will make it protected. And yeah, let's put a pin in it for now. And then in the next series, we'll talk quite a bit more about object-oriented programming and encapsulation and visibility. They're all kind of connected.
Okay.
So now we can just push to the array. We're figuring this out on the fly. This routes. Let's push a new item. And yeah, maybe we could reproduce what we had at the beginning of the video, where we say, well, the URI is this URI, the controller is the controller, and then the method should match, well, the method name you called. So we can force and hard code that to get. Okay. So now the first time, think about it. The first time I call this method, well, in our router class, we will push a new item onto this routes array. All right, let's do.
Then we don't need the routes.php file, I guess, in this situation. Let's do this. It takes a URI, it takes a controller, and there's a protected object called protected variable rather, route, not routes, routes. Routes is nothing. It's an empty array. And what happens is when you call this, then this routes is, and this should be, yeah, this routes equals URI, not USI, URI is URI, the URI is URI, the controller is controller, and the method method is get. Okay, semicolon. Yeah, this looks good.
Some more. Yeah, I can do a little copy paste here, and think about it. I could probably remove some duplication in a little bit. So the only thing that really changes here, if you think about it, is the method itself. So let's just keep working along. This.
Okay, let's do it. Here. I know, I'll fix you. Here. Here. And here. Now you take in a URI and a controller. Copy. I'm going to make this smaller just so that I can see for temporarily, okay, just for a minute. Okay, now this is a nice overview. I need one at post, delete, atch, put. Okay, I accidentally messed up the put cursor placement, so here. Put. Then this needs to be, this is get, this is post, this is delete, this is patch, adch, and put. I'm going to make this bigger so you all can comfortably see. Okay, let's go.
Would be method is delete, and then once again accept the URI and the controller. And then let's just do this. I'm gonna try to do this a little bit quicker. All right, this one is patch, and then finally one more, and this one would be put. Yeah. All right, a little cleanup, reformat, and there we go. Okay, so why don't we try this out? And actually, this is a good demonstration of visibility. If I want to quickly spit out all of the routes, well, have a look here. I could die and dump router routes. So notice I'm trying to die and dump this property. Let's see what happens in the browser. So we load this in Firefox, and what? Warning, require functions.php failed to open stream. Why? What happened? Oh, I see what's going on here. PHP Storm, how dare you? Looks like I accidentally renamed the directory. That's why the router. Okay, I see what's going on here. You saw that. You've been waiting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. It happens all the time with me as well.
Waiting for me to run into this. Okay.
Yes.
Fingers crossed. There we go. But now we get the white screen of death. What's the problem here? This isn't a JavaScript issue. Well,
I mean, it's so subtle. Did you get that when you try to debug something in the browser console, that's usually a JavaScript issue. And when you're trying to debug something in PHP, usually you need to look at the PHP server over here, server logs. Such a nice bit of wisdom.
let's, oh yeah, of course, this would be the case because we created a new router. I'm such an idiot. Okay, so let's think about the flow one more time, and I'll get us back on track. So yeah, right down here, we're still trying to require the old router.php file that we've since upgraded to a dedicated class. So instead, let's just initialize it, new core router, like so. Now you'll see it's squawking right now because we've upgraded it to a class, but we haven't yet applied the namespace. So we'll do that now. So yeah, if I...
Okay, let's go. Namespace router.php. Sorry. This is fine. And let me go to the public index. Am I getting the white screen of death though? Yes, I am. For everything, even on index. Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. Now we're requiring the old router here. Instead, I'm going to new core router. That was the syntax? No, it wasn't. What was the syntax?
class, but like so.
Yeah, new core router, call that function, instantiate it. Instantiate that class so that we create an object. So we instantiate the class. Not yet, okay. Wait, new backslash core backslash. Okay. Okay, let's see what happens.
Now you'll see it's squawking right now because we've upgraded it to a class.
Because I think the routes object is protected maybe and empty, that's why.
But we haven't yet applied the namespace.
No, that's not it. It's because I haven't updated the router here. Where is the router? Routes here. I need to update this. So let me call the get method. In fact, I'm going to go to his code and look at that. That'll be easier. Not the router, but the routes.php. Where's his routes.php? Yeah, routes.php. Router controller index. Copy. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Okay. Do we use router? Where is this router coming from? We haven't used router anywhere here. I guess it's probably coming from the special autoloader function. No? What's up? Okay, let's see. Controllers index.php at the get. This is the get request for this. Okay, let's see.
So we'll do that now. So yeah, if I switch back, we're seeing that white screen of death because we initialized our router, but then we never actually routed anything. So index.php completed, and we didn't load a view, we didn't do anything. So we see a white screen. Okay, we totally understand what's happening here. Let's get back to work. So if I come back to router.php, you'll
That makes one of us.
remember before at the bottom of the page, we had these 3 lines where we require our routes, and then we parse the current URI, and then we call this route to controller. So let's upgrade it now. We're still requiring our routes, but you'll remember that routes.php expects access to some kind of router object. And at the moment, it's not available. Okay, so let's come back and do this. I'm going to grab all of this, and I'm going to move it to index.php, and we'll add it here. So here's our router, and then I'll paste these lines in. Next, I will require routes.php, and because I've already initialized a router object, that will be available within this file. That's how it works. And now you can see this squiggly here because that property is protected. But
okay. I don't think I fully understand, but I will. So what was the thing that he pasted there? Oh yeah. URI parse and routes to controller, these two. Okay, but they're defined in functions.php, I believe. No, where are they defined then? I shouldn't care at this point, I guess. And the reason I say that is because I don't understand what's happening yet. Okay, this is a router. Okay, route to controller. Where is this defined? It was defined in the router previously. Here. But it's no longer defined. Let's see.
because I've already initialized a
You're getting a squiggly as well here.
router object, that will be available within this file. That's how it works. And now you can see this squiggly here because that property is protected, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Okay, so we require our routes.php file. This will populate the array of routes that we have here for the application. Then we figure out what the current URI is. We parse that URL, and then we're still calling this old route to controller function. Why don't we swap that out with something like router? And what method do I want to call? How about route? We will use it as a verb in this case.
Okay.
I want you to route the current URI to wherever it needs to go. Okay, let's give that a shot. So I will go into router, and we're going to add a new method here called route that accepts the current URI. Okay, so now if I scroll down, here's the old implementation that we had. Let's have a look. So we had access to a
Okay, got it. So he's doing it the other way around. Let me just create a function called public function route that takes in a URI, and what it does is basically the same thing here. So I'm going to copy this. Okay. You would like to put this in a different line. Okay. Uncomment. Yeah, you don't like the port function, do you? And I'll change this to this routes. If URI exists in routes, but it should be this routes. I'll wait for him to get here.
specific URI and then a list of routes. And then we checked, well, if the list of routes has a matching key for that URI, then that's the one we want to load, otherwise abort. Okay, so we're mostly going to reproduce that. We will loop over all of our routes, so for each route as route, and then we might say, well, look in that route, and remember, each route is this array here. So we might say, well, if the route's URI matches the URI that we passed in here, which is the current URI for the request, well, then that's the one. So we could return require base path route controller, right? We're going to require the corresponding controller.
Confusing AF, but I think I got this. So none of this, although the logic is the same. Rather, the behavior is the same. For each, we're going to loop over this route as route, and I know why you're yelling at me, just give me a second. This routes is route if the route URI I believe route URI equals URI. Then return require base path for the route controller. Okay. Save all of this. But why are you yelling at me? Oh, I need to put this here. Sorry. And why are you yelling at me? I guess function definitions don't need a semicolon at the end. Kind of makes sense. So what we're doing is essentially when we run the get request, then it populates the routes controller with the URI and the corresponding controller that we inserted into the get request. Now when we're calling the route function, then for everything in the routes array here, the protected array, we are checking if the URI matches the controller. So the URI, if it's /, excuse me, the URI matches the URI that we entered into the routes method, and if these two match, then we return the corresponding controller. So over here we would have populated URI is / controller equals index.php, then we base path index.php. It's funny how we return require both, but I understand why, because essentially we're substituting that function call for a require statement by doing return require.
Okay, and that will handle 50% of the job. We'll come back to it in a minute. Otherwise, we want to abort, because if we hit this line, we haven't found a matching URI. So if we scroll down, you'll remember we had this old abort function.
Yeah.
Let's grab it and bring it up. Like this, uncomment it. We could make this protected if you want, reformat. And yeah, that's mostly the same, isn't it? So I could call abort. All right, we're making progress.
Okay, let's do this. If this happens, then fine. If it doesn't, then this abort, we call the abort method. Let's define the abort method. Yes, stop yelling, I'm defining it. This can be protected. Function abort does the same thing here. I will use the response code not found. I will. Give me a second. Response code not found as the default abort. What do you call it? Default response code. You're taking in a code equals 404, yeah. Response code equals 404. Require base path. They should return require, I think. Yeah, it should probably return require. Okay, for now it's fine. Yeah, so by default abort returns a 404 if this is not found. But I would like to be explicit 404. Even though by default it does, but I want to be explicit. Okay, looks good. Someone is yelling at me in functions and index. Yeah, now you have abort here, but instead of this, it'll be router abort. Over here, route to controller, no, it'll be a get request. Okay.
But now, if I scroll up, we're still not inspecting the current request type, and that's something we need to do.
Yeah.
How could we do that? So it sounds like for this to work properly, maybe we need to accept a request method, and this would be get, or post, or delete, or put, or patch. Okay, so let's come back to index.php, and yeah, now it's squawking because I need to give it some kind of request type. So that's the next step.
Router route URI instead of this. Call the route method. URI is gonna be / method's gonna be get. Yeah, now you're yelling at me because in the router file I did not request a method for this. Okay, let's go.
How can we figure out what the current request type is from the form? You'll remember if we inspect the server superglobal and then the request method, that will tell us if we have a get or a post request. So yeah, that would be an option, and that does handle the case where we have post requests. But now, do you remember a couple episodes ago when I said forms don't natively support submitting delete requests or put requests? All they can really do is get or post. So that means we need some way to suggest to our application that, well, I had to submit a post request because that's all forms support, but what I really want to do is submit a delete request. Okay, so we can signal that through our view when we build up the form. So for example, we have within notes/show, in the last episode, you'll remember we added this form that has a button that says delete. And when you press it, it should delete the note. So now, you can see the method is set to post because, again, it's my only choice here. But I want to add some suggestion to the backend that I really want a delete request in this case. And I will do that by creating a hidden input. And I'm going to give it a name with something unique that ideally will not interfere with any of my other attributes. So very common would be underscore method. But again, you can do anything you want. If you want to do, underscore request method, just something unique. And the underscores at the beginning are what make it unique because it's not very common. Again, something unique that will ensure that it doesn't interfere with your other form attributes. But again, underscore method is pretty common. Okay, and I'm going to set a value of delete. Okay, so now I submit the form, and there will be this hidden input called underscore method that is set to delete. So now,
dude, this is confusing. So the method that we're using is post because that's what forms support, but hidden method, actual method is delete.
Think about it. Our router only has to check. All right, well, do we have something in the post request called underscore method? And if we do, let's favor that request type over whatever the default request type was. That's how we're going to handle it. Okay, so let's come back down. Where are we? Index.php. So let's see here for method.
Man, I almost want to build a browser that supports all proper RESTful methods. Why is Google Chrome and Firefox, all of these browsers, sleeping on this?
We could do this in a couple steps. The old syntax would be to do something like this. Check if underscore method exists within the post superglobal. And if it does, I'm using the ternary operator here, then that's the one we want to use because the user signaled that to us. Otherwise,
I'm sorry, I probably need to take a break right now. I'm going to pause this and break this down into two separate live streams. I'll just stop streaming right now, take a break and come back, because this is way too confusing and I don't want to pretend that I understand it. So let me pause this and be back with you in the next stream. Thank you for watching. Do check out laracast.com. This entire course is available for free. And the links to that and the YouTube version of this course are linked in the description of this video. Catch me again to watch the rest of this episode and help me figure this out together. Thank you. See you soon.